guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and welcome back, my producer, my best friend, the brother from another mother.
Alex, the producer. I'm here.
It has been a week for you, my friend.
It has. It's been kind of busy. It's been
Yeah.
it's been hectic. Families, family medical emergency. Everything's fine now. No. Well, I mean, knock on wood. You never want to jinx anything, but things were fine. But I had to basically drop everything I was doing, go help out some family, take care of a kitty cat who doesn't like me, who tolerates me, and then took gigantic cat shits for 3 days in a row. I swear it was like out of spite for me, knowing I'd have to clean it up. but yes, she ended up behaving. All good. We good now.
We're
Back
fine.
to basically catching up to everything I've missed for the last 6 days or so.
Okay.
But yes, like I am a little behind on certain things. I was able to play some things for review, do some movies and that, but I will have my work cut out for me over the next few days. That's for sure. But yes, I am back. No more solos. I was back 2 weeks ago. I was off because it was birthday weekend, and then last week was off because of family stuff, and now I'm back. And I was almost ready to say, do we have to do a show this week? And I'm like, no, I don't want to get in the pattern of just not being here.
Yeah. So I am glad you're back. While you were gone, it's been busy for me. In my life here in Guelph, I tend to get involved in a lot of things, and I've talked a little bit about this on TikTok, but I'm now volunteering with the university radio station, CFRU, which is University of Guelph, and maybe you'll hear some TWIG content on there in some capacity. Either way, you'll hear my voice on there doing PSAs and other stuff around the community, so look forward to that. During your birthday week, I was working with my local political party, and I now have new responsibilities here in the city, so much so that they actually gave me a budget, so I get to go out and meet new people and do all sorts of really fun things. So I'm looking forward to learning more about the people here in Guelph, so that'll be kind of fun for me. Definitely means my summers are just going to be remarkably busy. And then yesterday I led a workshop on social media, which was kind of fun, to help out some people understand what TikTok and Instagram is and stuff like that, and how to use
social media. You don't know anything about social media.
I know, right? That guy. And then this coming next week, actually, I'm going to be talking at the University of Waterloo about disability and ableism, and that'll be an interesting experience. And then finally, I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Maybe I only talked about this with you and Blair in our personal lives, but I got contacted a couple of weeks ago by a PhD student at the University of Bucharest who is doing some research about indigeneity and disability. And I finally got around to answering their email. And from what I understand, my comments and feedback will be in a PhD thesis paper later on this year. So that felt really cool that people halfway around the world found me talking about this. So that felt
that's cool.
Kind of awesome. Yeah, I was like wow.
Yeah, when you first said it, my cynical brain went to, before you said the country, I was like, okay, so this is, first thought is this one of those African scams where they're trying to steal your money? It's like, hey, I'm a king that needs help, and you're like, no, it's in Bucharest and it's a PhD. I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense and is also much more believable.
So big thanks to them for reaching out so I can help you. I'm really looking forward to that. And then me and Blair spent a quiet Valentine's Day playing Pokemon Go. It was part of our date. There was a new Pokemon came out that day, so we went out and had fun doing that. And then we came home and watched the most romantic thing you can imagine: Nazis and Scientology. We just randomly went down a rabbit hole of documentaries, and we're like, this isn't romantic. This is terrifying and gross, but But yeah, so we learned a lot. Plus, we binged a bunch of Masters of Air, which is the new TV show on Apple Plus, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm all caught up too, and it's like watching an old styley movie, like with the acting and everything. It's all on purpose to, you know what I mean? Like, it's funny seeing young actors in their 20s do their best. It's not even necessarily like they're acting exactly the way people in the 40s acted. It's almost like they're acting the way people in the 1970s acted when they were acting about the 1940s.
Yeah, it's like it's really good, and because we're watching it with my friend Liam, who is all sorts of like this military history enthusiast, I dare I say expert, like we're learning all these different things and about like the different planes and eras of warfare. I know uh Aaron, who's another co-host on our show here, is a wonderful World War II enthusiast
I
and a reenactor as well.
Don't get me wrong. I think he said his great uncle was in the 100th. He's
Yeah,
either the 100th or the 101st. I'm
yeah,
not.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Don't quote me, but I remember him saying that this show is going to be very important to him because he has family directly involved with what was there. Like it's great.
Yeah.
I believe it was his great uncle. He said, but again, we'll find out how once we record with him. If we have to correct ourselves, we will.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's basically been my week. I had an awesome Valentine's Day. Got a lot of really cool Transformers from Blair. I got her some new stuff you're going to hear some reviews about on the show in the next week or so. And as for reviews I'm currently working on, I'm currently working through Ubisoft's Skull and Bones, and you'll hear that review next week on the show. So what about you, Alex? What have you been up to? Obviously with things going on, I'm sure it's been a hectic little while.
Yeah, I've got some movies and stuff that I will have probably reviews in the show for Mill Creek. They had some Steelbook editions come out. Not necessarily full reviews of the movies because there are some that we've already reviewed in the past, but they're getting like a Steelbook treatment. And in the past, we generally didn't cover releases that were like only exclusive to specific stores, right?
Like
But
Walmart exclusives or
yeah,
Target exclusives.
and I was debating because we were sent these. They were Steelbook Blu-rays, but they say Walmart exclusive, and even the website says it. And then I was like, I don't know. But then realized Walmart's the only store selling physical Blu-rays in the
But
states.
yeah,
Like,
because Best Buy stopped, right?
yeah, like I mean, sure, if you're going, you won't be able to find them at Target, but like outside of Walmart, I don't think that there's a full-size large chain in the states that will carry like physical releases really anymore, right? So it's not a big deal to cover Walmart exclusives when they're the only game in town.
But say, yeah, I mean, maybe Target will get the odd exclusive nowadays, but yeah, it's either Walmart, Amazon, Target.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent,
So
you might find something at Walgreens, maybe.
for these particular releases, it's the kind of thing where if you're used to buying them on Amazon, you might have to go to the Walmart website or store just to pick them up. But yeah, so like traditionally, just for future reference, we didn't usually cover them if they were very specific to a specific retailer only. But if it's going to be like a Walmart or Amazon exclusive at this point, I think we may as well from now on.
Makes sense.
Because it's pretty much it, right? And then now that doesn't extend to people like if there's boutique companies that were only releasing releases on their website and it's like an independent company. Of course, we always covered those. But like whenever there was like here's the Walmart edition with a slightly different cover than the Best Buy edition, we didn't really do those.
Yeah, no.
Same reason why we don't do like specific pre-order DLC reviews for different stores for games or anything. But there's those. I've still had a few other things that I've been working on movie-wise. I've got a couple games I'm working on in this show in particular. I will have a review of the Lara Croft Tomb Raider original trilogy. I think it's called like Tomb Raider 1 to 3. It's
Remastered or something.
Remastered. It's the one where you can. They do the same thing as the Master Chief Collection, where you can press a button and swap between graphical styles on the fly.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So that's in here. I will also have a review of Trails of Cold Steel, Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 3 and 4. They've both been released separately as well as in a bundle together as an upgrade to PS5 version. I've reviewed them in the past with full reviews, so it's more of like a review of the tech upgrades and how do they play. Because now we're finding, as we're waiting for some of these newer games to come out, a lot of games that were released either at the tail end or sometimes even at the beginning of last gen life cycle, they're now getting, big
Native
upgrades.
PS5 ports. Yeah.
Yeah, native ports, and it generally means like full 4K, but maybe better textures, faster loading times. The stuff that's a little bit more substantial than what you usually get with just like the backwards compat play.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got some of that. I'm trying to think what else do I have here coming soon. I've got a few indie games that I've been looking at. I might be getting, now I'm not 100% sure on this, but we might be getting some interesting controller Pro Tech stuff coming in to look at, as well as I'll be looking probably for next week at some big packagey stuff from Columbia Pictures for their 100th anniversary. So there's
Ooh.
there's some interesting stuff on the horizon, just all at once.
Yeah. As for me, I do have some more kind of role playing books coming in from Free League. I just been in contact with the team at Wizards. I've got stuff from Renegade Game Studios, Modifius, across their various IPs. A lot of good stuff to be coming up over the next couple of weeks as we move into the spring, which will be here in just a couple of short weeks. So we're going to take a small break here on This Week in Geek, and right now we're going to take a listen to Alex's reviews on the aforementioned Tomb Raider remasters. We'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
What makes you sweat? Is it passion? Or could it just be heat? What about not knowing if your very next breath will be your last? What about all three? Tomb Raider from IDOS Interactive.
Alex here with just a quick review. Our friends over at Aspyr sent a review code for Lara Croft's Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered. I played this particular version on the PlayStation platform. It's pretty much available everywhere, on every modern console, PC, and you're going to end up with a really interesting experience in that it does that same cool thing that we've seen, I guess, was it sort of started back when we had the Halo Master Chief Collection, where you could swap between the original graphical style and the modern graphics, and then we saw other games start to utilize that. I think it was some of the was it the Wonder Boy games or Monster World, something like that, where they allowed you to flip between them on the fly. This is another game where you can do that, where you can swap between what appears to be the original graphics. It's not exactly, it's an approximation. It has the same textures and so on. It's obviously using a more modern engine, and it doesn't have the same sort of weird artifacts that you'd get when playing on like a PS1 or PC back in the day, whether it be software or hardware rendered on like the old Voodoo FX cards. But it does give you a interesting, look into what, we saw as state-of-the-art graphics circa, almost 30 years ago at this point now. And in switching into the modern view, you're able to have, almost like an idealized version of what we thought the game looked like in our mind's eye back in the day. Much better lighting, textures, graphics. It's not going to be like brand new. It's not like ground up like a modern Tomb Raider game, but it's almost like what you would have envisioned a 3D remake to look like circa maybe late PS2 to like first gen PS3 back in the day, but obviously with better resolution and frame rate, because this plays at a locked 4K 60 on my PlayStation 5, and looking at other versions, even on the Switch, it's locked at 60, both at 1080p and 720p. So it doesn't really matter what platform you get it at, you're pretty much getting a locked frame rate. Playing it in the old visual style, though, does lower the frame rate to what appears to be 30. It's a little jerky. It's fun for a novelty, but I would honestly just switch back and play most of the game, at least on the first playthrough, most of all three games, actually, in the modern remastered remake sort of style. It's cool that they've recreated the menus for each of the games in the game. They're in both modern and classic graphics, because you can again switch between on the fly. There is also like a fair amount of attention to detail on even the menus having everything looking and feeling like the original, plus modern graphics skins on top of it when you flip between them. For anybody that's wondering, we're not going to go deep into the details of how each game is. These are classic games that really defined the 3D adventure genre. That being said, it does still retain, it has some modern control updates, but for the most part, these are tank control games. So if you're somebody who's played a lot of classic Resident Evil style games. They're probably the most modern games that you would have played that have these kind of controls, which means, you know, use your D-pad. Using an analog stick can be a little unwieldy because holding up moves forward, but left and right doesn't strafe left and right or turn your reticle of movement left or right. It just stops your character and turns your character left or right. So you better off using the D-pad where you press left, right to turn, and then up to move forward and back to move backwards. You can rotate the map around with, depending on how you control it, you can move the map around. So there are better camera angles in this than I remember back in the day. The camera and controls were your enemy when it came to late 90s action platformer / adventure games that, you know, weren't Mario. At least until they got things sort of smoothed out right around like 99, 2000, 2001. It was really in the PlayStation 2 era where things started to really change, and we got a hold of how things move in a 3D space to be more streamlined and sort of standardized for everything. That being said, it can be fun to go back and play this sort of game. If you're somebody who's been curious about the games in the past, this is a great way to play it because it's taking games that for a long time had been sort of neglected, or maybe you were stuck having to play on older hardware, track things down. You can now play the games in how they, for the most part, visually looked and sounded, or in a sort of updated, almost like mind's eye, how we thought the games looked, but in reality looks way better than the games looked version that works on just every platform, rock solid. I do think people will be interested, even new players, to see where, you know, Lara Croft came from, and sort of maybe this could be used as like a template for maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, remastering and remaking some of the other games in the series or other similar ones of its ilk. So I do recommend it. I think it's sort of coming out right now, right in the cusp of when a lot of bigger games are coming out. So I hope it doesn't fall completely under the radar, because I do think this is worth your time checking out. You do get all 3 games for the price of one bundled together. And if you're somebody who's been worried, you know, is it going to play well on console, or is it something I'm going to have a PC for to scale with it? This works perfectly fine on PlayStation 5. And from what I've seen from other reviewers even, it seems to be a rock solid release on the Switch. So don't be, you know, afraid. Don't be hesitant. You can pick it up pretty much on any platform and have a pretty good experience, and, you know, dive right back into what made the Lara Croft franchise great with the original trilogy.
Croft, for your latest assignment, you'll be going to some new places. South Pacific, Antarctica, and you'll be getting some new toys. Gunther?
This is a new rocket launcher, a girl's best friend.
We've been watching you. Your work is very impressive.
Tomb Raider 3 from Eidos Interactive.
Oh, and one other thing.
New outfits. PlayStation.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek News.
And welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. Big thanks to Alex to checking out the adventures of Lara Croft. You can pick that up on your platform of choice. Okay, guys, we got a lot to talk about this past week, something that really caught me by surprise. I didn't think this would be dated till later on this year, but this story comes courtesy of superherohype.com. X-Men trailer previews. The Marvel animated series release date and voice cast has been announced. So the first trailer for X-Men 97 has been revealed. Marvel Entertainment shared the first trailer for X-Men 97, a new animated series that serves as a revival and direct continuation of X-Men, the animated series. X-Men 97 comes from showrunner and head writer B. Mayo. The series, which features 10 all-new episodes, begins streaming on Disney Plus on March 20th, 2024. Then I'll just read a little bit about this. So X-Men 97 revisits the iconic era of the 1990s as the X-Men, a band of mutants who use their uncanny gifts to protect a world that hates and fears them, are challenged like never before, faced with a dangerous and new unexpected future. The synopsis for the series reads: the voice cast for X-Men 97 includes Ray Chase as Cyclops, Jennifer Hale as Jean Grey, Alison Seeley Smith as Storm, Cal Dodd as Wolverine, J.P. Carlack as Morph, Lenore Zahn as Rogue, George Buza as Beach, AJ Lacasio as Gambit, Holly Chow as Jubilee, Isaac Robinson Smith as Bishop, Matthew Watterson as Magneto, and Adrian Hugh as Nightcrawler. Some of these names are actually from the original show.
Isn't it most of them except for Magneto and Cyclops, because those voice actors have passed on?
Yes, and you'll notice the girl who's playing Holly Chow is actually a Asian actress taking over the role of Jubilee from Allison Court. However, I did a little bit of digging on Wikipedia, and Allison Court's version of Jubilee does exist in... She's playing a character. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's basically a version that got sent to Mojo World and was taken as his slave in order to spare something. But then
so
Wolverine comes to rescue her or something.
So they're bringing her back, or as that character, or
as a different version. But she says she won't voice Jubilee again because that's an Asian American role. So, but she's like, I'm happy to do this because it's like a multiverse thing. I think
I'm sort of in a weird place with this. It's like I understand and I do get why a lot of places are doing this now, where the way they're casting. But wasn't the point of voice acting? It's not the same as physical acting, where you're altering somebody's face to look a certain way and not giving somebody a job. With voice acting, hasn't it always been like you're really good at making different voices, so it doesn't matter who you are or what your background is?
Well, I guess to bring up the old Simpsons argument in the documentary, the problem with Apu, you kind of get where I'm kind of going with it. I get it.
Except with that one, the entire community was actually against them canceling the character.
Well, because it was such a fun portrayal, right?
Well, it was going to say this. It was never, Apu was never really the butt of a joke. Like maybe very early on, he was never like the argument made by the Indian American community was that he's actually one of the most stable people within the show. He supports his family. He's been a business owner for a long time. Works hard, lives the American dream, and like that was the big backlash that they overcompensated. So I get it here. Like, to me, I don't feel that a voice actor should be disqualified just based on that alone. But I do agree that like if this person is a better fit, then yeah, obviously.
Like I'm very curious to hear what the new version of Jubilee is going to be like. She was my favorite character in the original series.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be like, I'm not coming across as bigoted. I hope I'm saying I'm interested in seeing where they go with the character. And the same thing, the only thing that worries me is like, does this mean like, are we going to start getting ageist in that? Oh, you can't play an old person or a young person if you're not an old person or a young person.
I think that would heavily depend, because you look at the new Ninja Turtles movie, which had an age-appropriate cast for its characters, and I think that worked out surprisingly well.
That's what I'm saying. I was perfectly fine with it. It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, are you going to start getting cases where people are like, you're not allowed to portray them because you're too old?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like that could be problematic. But yeah, regardless, beyond that, I'll say this very quickly from the people I heard in there. I saw some discourse online, people being like, some of the actors, they don't sound the same. It was 30 years ago. A lot of these actors are in their 60s or older.
Yeah. Like, for example, Cal Dodd, who played Wolverine pretty much through the entirety role. He's been in some of the video games as Wolverine. People were complaining about him, and they're like, why doesn't he sound the same? Because, dude, it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, like, was he already in his 30s then? Like,
he was pretty old at like that time, like easily in his 40s. And the guy who's playing Beast, which is George Buza, I'll be very interested to see how like he sounds. I know the guy who's playing Gambit, he's not the original Gambit, but the guy who plays the original Gambit's actually playing Cable in this show.
So they're moving that around a little bit, eh?
Yeah. The guy who plays Gambit, this was actually, I think, kind of an interesting choice. His name is AJ Lacasio, and that's a name I recognized, and I wasn't sure why immediately, but I did a little bit of digging. That's the guy who portrayed Marty McFly in the Back to the Future games. So that's a really interesting choice. I think that's going to be great. And the guy
because like Cal Dodd, like looking at these guys, he's almost 70. Like, you can't expect them to sound. Now they sound fine. Like, what I mean? And I think you got to let your memory go a little bit. It's the idea of like Futurama. They've come back now twice, and they're like, oh, why do some of the actors sound weird? It's like, well, the show was canceled twice. You know, like the show, the first time the show was canceled when it came back, it was like 7 or 8 years later, and it's been another 10 years or more. Some of these actors are in their 60s and 70s, and not everybody sounds the same. Not everybody can be, you know,
Dan Casanella
or Tress MacNeille, who sounds the same as she did like 40 years ago. You know, not every actress or voice actor can do that. So just you'll ease into it. Like you said, with Beast being played by George Music, is it funny that I'm most happy that he's back?
I'm happy for him, and I'm happy for Cal Daw, but I'm also happy for the girl who plays Storm, Allison Seeley Smith, and the girl who plays Rogue is still Rogue, and she is. I think she's an independent member of Parliament out in New Brunswick, or she's with the Liberal Party of Canada. I'm not sure which.
Is that what? Yeah, member? Oh yeah, I'm just looking it up right here. She's a member of Parliament for Cumberland Colchester. No, that was in 2021.
So maybe she's no longer sitting, or is she an independent now?
She is. She's not currently serving. She was.
Okay, but still, that's pretty cool. And the guy who plays Cyclops, who took over from Norm Spencer, who passed away, I want to say about a year, maybe 2 ago, Ray Chase, he sounds pretty good as Cyclops. I'm actually super pleased about that one.
He was Noctis, the main character of Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
And then he's a pretty prolific modern like anime and game voice actor.
And then Jennifer Hale's taking over as Jean Grey. Pretty fine with that. Commander Shepard, anytime. And I think the girl who played the original Jean Grey, I think she's playing an undisclosed character right now. And then funny, last thing I'll mention on there's a guy, I can't remember his last name, but I know his first name is Eric. Bowser, maybe it is. I think he's taking, because he voices a lot of the Looney Tunes characters now. He's playing the Sentinels and various other roles. I always loved how the Sentinels sounded in the original series, so I'll be very curious to see what they now sound like. Maybe he'll be a new version of like Master Mold.
He's in a ton of stuff, dude. He's one of the. He's from Toronto too.
Yeah, exactly. He is a workhorse. So I'm so happy for this. March 20th, we will be following this. I've already been in contact with JT when we do our first Sunday funny show of the year. Maybe we'll just talk about our X-Men animated series memories. I have quite a long history with the franchise, all the way from the first premiere on that Halloween back in 1994, I think is when the series came out. I was there.
It was 92.
Sorry, 92, but
I remember it came out. Was it after Batman?
Yes, and it was on Saturday morning.
It was after Batman, but before Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
It was 92 because it was what, 4 seasons?
Yeah, 5 seasons.
5 seasons.
Five seasons was short though.
Yeah, that makes sense because 97 would have been the next season. Yeah, for me that was like I started when I was in kindergarten. So like it was Power Rangers and X-Men, man, and Batman. That's what I watched all the time. I had Wolverine as a toy, and I had Batman, and they went on adventures together to kill like GI Joes and stuff, and Ninja Turtles and stuff. So like that was my jam, son. And then I had the DVDs, the horrible ABC DVDs, like ABC Television or whatever it was that put them out. I think it was Disney. Somebody put them out. They suffered from really poor encoding. The same with like the Alias. Did you ever have the Alias DVDs for like the Alias TV show?
Blair did, yeah, actually.
They were horrendous for skipping. Like you'd start watching an episode and it would skip chapters because there was problems with the disc mastering.
Oh, good times.
And they were never fixed on home video ever. So maybe now they'll get a re-release or get or at least a digital copy. Like, is the whole show on Disney Plus? Because I don't have Disney Plus.
Totally.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll have to get it so I can watch it again because I'll be super psyched for it. Like it was probably one of. If you had to count, like one of the top 10 defining kids shows of the 90s?
Oh, 100%. It would have been that, Batman, Gargoyles,
Turtles.
Turtles in the early part of the 90s, definitely not in the later.
Okay,
Basically, once you got into the Red Sky seasons.
Okay, so if we have to go defining shows of the 90s for 90s kids, the top two have to be Power Rangers and Pokemon.
Yeah, Power Rangers, Pokemon, Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man. I think I could make a compelling case for Garfield and Ghostbusters. And then I'm trying to think what would be another animated show that really knocked it out of the park.
Animated or live action kids. Power Rangers is number one. Like there's
100%. 100%.
Like not just live action and cartoon. There's nothing that touches how big Power Rangers was for the entire 90s generation of kids.
Yeah.
And then
maybe Reboot, maybe Beast Wars, maybe.
If you're Canadian, it would be Reboot and Beast Wars. Reboot especially. If you're American,
maybe some of the Disney cartoons like Recess, Doug.
Later 90s especially, but like early 90s, a lot of the Nickelodeon stuff didn't come to Canada in the early 90s.
But like it was very hard. You'd have to watch YTV or you'd have to have satellite to watch it.
Depending on if you're in the States or Canada, it would be Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps, one of the two. Probably Goosebumps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like it's right up there, and the fact that it's getting this whole final, might be final season. Who knows? It depends on how the I guess.
Well, they have started recording season 2.
They have, and it's because we're getting what is it, 8 or 10 episodes?
I think we're getting 10 episodes of this first season. We'll probably get another 10 next season, and then they'll kind of do a projection whether it's worth doing a season 3. My guess is Disney Plus needs content. This will probably be it. So. Yeah, I'm fairly excited for this. Like I said, March 20th is the premiere date. Like I said, me and JT will do some kind of follow-up on this for sure.
Here, quick little trivia for you for this little story. You know who did the music for it?
Saban? Haim Saban?
No. For the you know who did the the music for the original X-Men show?
No.
He also did the music for Power Rangers.
Ron
Wasserman.
Let's say Ron Rasselman. Okay, that's cool.
But doesn't that explain why it was baller awesome rockin'?
That's true, yeah. All right, so this next story, Alex sent me this past week, but this story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. This is kind of a commentary, but I'll just kind of read the article and we'll have a little bit of discussion about it. It says, bummer. The PlayStation 5 is, quote, entering the latter stage of its life cycle, according to Sony. Sony announced its third quarter's earnings on February 14th, and they weren't exactly full of glad tidings for PlayStation fans. For starters, the company revealed it doesn't plan to release any new title in any of its major franchises for the remainder of 2024. Sony execs said the current gen hardware, the PlayStation 5, is nearing the end of its life cycle. According to Bloomberg's coverage of the call, the company predicts PS5 sales will slow in the next fiscal year. That means from April 24th. From April 2024 to March 2025. Quote, looking ahead, the PlayStation 5 will enter the latter stage of its life cycle, Sony SVP Naomi Masuka said. As such, we'll put more emphasis on the balance between profitability and sales. For this reason, we expect the annual sales pace of PlayStation 5 hardware will start falling in the next fiscal year. The PlayStation 5 launched in November of 2020, but was unusually difficult to obtain for nearly 2 years after launch, owing to global supply chain shortages. During this time, the rare occasions PS5s went available from online retailers like Amazon and Best Buy. They would quickly be scooped up by resellers and sold on the secondary market at a hefty markup. The consoles became far easier for most folks to get a hold of in 2023 with PlayStation Prez Jim Ryan announcing at CES that everyone who wants a PlayStation 5 should have a much easier time finding one at retailers globally starting from this point forward. On the earnings call, Sony execs confirmed 54.7 million PlayStation 5s have sold since launch. That's a lot, but considerably outpaced by the 139 million Switches sold by Nintendo since 2017. Typically, consoles have a shelf life of roughly 7 years. Through the continued popularity of the Nintendo Switch has proven that convention isn't exactly ironclad. So the fact that Sony's thinking about next-gen already wouldn't be surprising in normal circumstances, but it's fair to say the last few years have been anything but, quote, normal circumstances. PlayStation 5 consoles becoming widely available at manufacturers' suggested retail last year, it kind of feels like the current generation of games only got started in earnest in 2023. Combine this with the lack of first-party tentpole releases in the coming year, this is pretty discouraging. Sony's latest announcement comes at a particularly charged moment in gaming. January saw a deluge of layoffs throughout the industry. February kicked off with a spate of rumors that Xbox plans to port its games for rival and Sony platforms, or maybe even stop making hardware entirely amid slower than expected Game Pass growth. We'll find out more on that topic when Xbox drops its business update, which will be our next story. And here's hoping Nintendo comes through with that Switch 2 reveal sooner rather than later. I think it's a little too short to be calling this the end of the PlayStation's life cycle, considering they just launched PS2 VR last year, but that hardware's gone fucking nowhere.
There was an update on other sites saying that there was a mistranslation. That the actual, because you know how sometimes it can not be 100% equal from Japanese to English and yada 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 of business side. That what they meant was not that the end of, but that we're entering the second half, which is true.
Yeah, I could say.
Which would put us, 3.5 years. Like technically, we're
hardware refresh, basically, right?
Well, no, we're 3.5 years in. In 3.5 years, it'll be 7 years, and that'll be the end of the life. They originally thought they could get 10 years out of it. They're not going to. They're gonna. My guess would be this year we get a Pro, and then in 3 years we get a new system, and that'll bring us into the standard life cycle of what we were sort of used to. It was always about somewhere between 5 to 7 years. It just doesn't feel that way for most people because most people didn't get their PS5 until 2.5, 3 years in.
Yeah, I like you and I got remarkably lucky. Like we got them the second pre-orders went live, and then we basically clenched our buttholes for 2 weeks.
Like I have not been into a GameStop since I picked up my, I guess it was PS5 came out after the Xbox. Since I picked it up, to the point that I didn't know that they discontinued the ability to they'd auto redeem your points to get Onyx. So they dropped me down to a red card now, so I don't get any discounts or any trade-in deals, even though I had plenty of points. They just expired all my points because apparently I didn't shop there enough during the pandemic when they were closed.
Yeah, and now that program is being changed into something else because the only reason I shop at GameStop is for Transformers right now. I haven't bought a piece of gaming hardware. No, wait, that's not true. I bought Blair Katamari Damacy, the one that came out last year. Yeah, that's the last game I physically purchased at a GameStop. Most of my games I buy digitally or from Amazon. I bought someone some Switch games for Christmas.
I gave my brother my card to use to get a discount on like a biogenic, I think, charging kit or something in 2021, and there's been nothing since.
Yeah.
And I've got my Onyx card, but it doesn't work as an Onyx card anymore. And I was debating, like, when they announce the next Switch or when they announce the PlayStation, do I pre-order it there and then do trade-ins towards it? And I'm like, I don't really have physical games to trade in anymore.
But because we don't get physical games at here at the show often, if any at all.
The few that I might buy myself for Christmas or birthday, a lot of times I'll end up selling those privately because, like, if I don't have a trade 3 deal, if I only have 2 games, what's the point in doing a trade 3 deal? So. Yeah. And especially if they're not going to give me more money, they're kind of dead to me. So I was like, and if I want to buy a pre-order, I just pre-order on Amazon, and you don't put any money down at all, and you might not get it the same. Like, the only reason I would pre-order at GameStop now is if they could guarantee that I would get a pickup on day 1, so that I could get my review stuff going. If I had review codes already ready to go.
Did you have something like this happen? Like you pre-ordered a game? Because this is triggering a story. What happened?
We had our consoles pre-ordered. We were hoping that initially, because there was talk that there were going to be loaners for Xbox and for PlayStation to some outlets, because nobody could secure their consoles ahead of time during the pandemic. That there might be a loaner that people could use for a few days and you'd send it back, to get your coverage ready for day 1. So we thought that didn't happen. So I got sent the Xbox Series X code for Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, and I didn't have an Xbox anymore. Like, I had traded my Xbox in a week before I got the code to pay off the console retail because I couldn't get a loaner to get the Series X. And then I was like, well, shit, I had to borrow a digital edition. My friend had the Xbox One SAD edition, all digital, just because he wanted it for Game Pass when that was new, right? So I had to borrow his Xbox One S, play the game to get the review started, which was terrible. It was like that game was not optimized for the S. Like, if I had sold my X, it would have been fine on there. And then I had to go stop my review halfway through, return his system to him, go pick up my console, install the game, and then release the review 3 days late because that was the fastest I could beat it. And I actually had received a code, or I had received 2 codes for PS5 2 or 3 weeks before release, and I had companies asking, "Hey, so when is your review coming out? Hey, when am I getting my fucking console?" Pardon my French, but I can't play your game because of how. And that was not just us; that was a lot of outlets. Basically, anybody that wasn't like a tier 1 print magazine, television show, like people that were like big influencers on YouTube didn't get their consoles. You had to be like working for IGN to get a console before release.
Yeah, like for like us, and we've got pretty good relationships with most hardware manufacturers, some better than others in recent years.
But when my 2018 or 2019 when my my new 2DS XL, it just, the screen cracked and exploded on its own. Like nothing I did to it. It was a fault in that model. It was past the warranty date and everything. I had 2 review things, one for Atlas and one for Nintendo themselves, ready to go. And I called, talked to Nintendo, and I said, "Hey, you know how you sent me this review? Here's what's going on." They said, "No problem." They sent me a box. I put it in. They received it. It took like 6 weeks to get it, so they didn't get their review right away. But then they sent me back a fixed console, no questions asked. So we have good relationships with people, but it was like, the response we were getting at the time was like, "Yeah, that's kind of everybody right now."
Yeah, it was kind of like get in line, so to speak.
If you looked like the day, like before release or day of release, when it came to console reviews of for the PS5 and Xbox, there were like 10 outlets worldwide total that had like day of release stuff.
Yeah, it was wild.
So
I mean,
this year, or if this stuff comes this year, like if we get a PS5 stuff again, like I'm debating, it's like, do I go in person and then hope that GameStop even exists when my console comes out, or that they'll have my console and not give it to somebody else, or lie to me and say that they had pre-ordered and then turns out they didn't even have enough stock allocated? Or do I go with Amazon and then potentially have to wait 2 or 3 days?
See, I'm going to go with like Amazon, because although from a different industry, I pre-ordered a Transformer that was considered pretty hot, and I literally got it the second that it went up for pre-order, and Amazon just canceled it and didn't tell anybody. I had to find out from Twitter that I wasn't the only one who had this particular thing canceled. So even Amazon is not 100% guaranteed.
So like, and Xbox, who knows when they're going to do a refresh? We saw those models that they showed before that they showed that were leaked, that probably aren't happening now. But with PlayStation, it was kind of a thing. At least with Xbox, even during the height of the stock issues with other companies, you were generally able to order it through Microsoft if you had the cash, right? Whereas Sony was like a lottery system. Remember that bullshit?
Yep.
You won the chance to get in line to then within an hour hopefully get one console. You won a chance to wait in line to maybe get one.
Yeah, it was complete and utter bullshit.
So,
I mean,
and I almost got heat stroke. Actually, I almost kind of did when Blair picked me up when I was getting my console, because
I remember,
because it was unfathomably hot. It was like 38 degrees Celsius, and I'm standing outside for 4 hours in line to get my console that I pre-ordered, and I'm standing there, and I was going to originally go home and maybe go to your place. Blair picks me up, and she just stops the car, goes into the dollar store, comes out with water, and says, "You're drinking that, or I'm taking you home because you're not well looking."
Yeah, I do remember this day.
I suffer for the people.
You do. So, like, I don't know. I mean, if Sony does do something with its hardware, fine, sure. I'm probably not going to upgrade if it goes to pro hardware, unless there's a real reason to.
You need a physical disc so that we can share games and movies.
Yeah, that would be nice, because currently my Xbox Series X is the only thing I'm watching kind of Blu-rays on, but I like the interface of the PlayStation 5 more for media. I mean, I watch a lot of my streaming services through that. Speaking of streaming services, I found out if Funimation is shutting down in the beginning of April, so if you have any digital codes that you own on there, you're kind of fucked.
Aren't they transferring over to Crunchy?
They are not. So if you bought something on Funimation, it will not transfer to Crunchy, which is horseshit.
But your subscription is, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with my old Funimation Press account, whether it'll be transferred over. Probably not, but that's okay. I'm paying for Crunchyroll anyway.
I think they're like, you're not changing anything. It's just using the credentials. But
yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, we'll have to wait and see whether my old press account slips through.
I mean, it's happened before. We've had press accounts slip through and mergers and changes have happened and been like, oh, that worked.
Yeah, like cool. So
yeah,
I guess...
that worked. That worked. I don't have to spend the next 6 weeks with email chains back and forth to get things working.
Yeah. So anyway, so moving on to our next story. Again, staying with video game hardware. This story comes courtesy of insider-gaming.com. Again, Alex found this. Microsoft teased unique and, quote, powerful next-gen Xbox console. During the recent official Xbox podcast featured Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, and Phil Spencer, it was revealed that Microsoft is already investing heavily in the next generation of Xbox hardware. It was promised that Microsoft is shaping up to deliver the, quote, largest technical leap when it comes to pushing out a unique and powerful console that alters the established paradigm as we know it. That's a lot of word fucking salad. So, on the official Xbox podcast, newly crowned Xbox president Sarah Bond broke down what's next for Xbox, and I quote, "We've got more to come. There's some exciting stuff coming out in hardware that we're going to share this holiday. We're also investigating the next generation roadmap. What we're really focused on is delivering the largest technical leap you'll have ever seen in a hardware generation, which makes it better for players and better for creators and the visions that they are building." Phil Spencer took a moment to talk about the topic of handheld consoles. There have been plenty of rumors circulating of late concerning the potential Xbox handheld, but Spencer confirmed there's nothing to announce. He's a big fan of handhelds, though, and then you can see the full podcast episode on like YouTube and other platforms.
I watched the whole thing. It was 22 minutes of fluff. About 6 minutes was actually important. This is basically, to me, this is them saying, "Hey, MSI has that handheld like Steam Deck sort of thing coming out that's using the Intel Ultra processor." That's probably what they're using. Because AMD is fine and all, but the Intel ones are making the bigger leaps when it comes to power efficiency and what you can do. And there had been talk that they had already been in discussion with Intel or other companies beyond AMD because, I don't know, reasons. Maybe they could get more yields from them when it comes to, volume buying, that sort of stuff. If that's the case, we're looking at probably a tablet, and it was not confirmed, but it was talked about that the division of hardware has been taken away from the people that designed the last several generations of systems within them and moved over to the head of the Microsoft Surface, which is their tablet/laptop division. So if that's the case, then we can probably expect an Xbox Series T or Xbox Surface or something. They'll call it, T for tablet or Surface. I would suspect the next generation is going to be two things. Either, a portable tablet for the low end for the S to replace the current S's, and then like a box, like a proper Xbox for the X, and it's probably they're closer to what would really be happening is they'll have one SKU, one Xbox. It'll be a tablet, sort of like a Switch. And then when you plug it into the dock has an eGPU built in because that's what Intel does that AMD does not. It has a bunch of stuff for using external GPUs. So you could either buy the tablet separately and get, the equivalent power of what like an S would be, or you can buy a bundle that has the dock, and when you plug it in the dock, you get 4K gaming. 1080p on the go, 4K plugged in. And that is probably where they're going to go. Maybe open it up so that you can install PC games or something on it too. Like some sort of hybrid Xbox/Windows PC. Because that's really the only way they can go if they want. If they're saying revolutionary jump in hardware, the only thing you can really do is have the ability for the first time ever to use an external GPU.
Yeah, or maybe if they're talking about that, maybe it's VR ready right out of the box
They
or
can't
something.
they can't handle regular games. You think they can handle VR? Like they haven't developed a compelling, really good game since what, like Gears 5, as far as like that pulls everybody in. What
I
makes you
would say
think?
Halo Infinite was probably their last big thing, but they dropped the ball so badly on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, as far as runaway hit, it's been what, almost 10
Halo.
years?
Yeah, it's been a long time because like Forza does numbers, but not moving console numbers, not enough
No.
to get into the gaming sphere. Like people know who the Master Chief is, so much so there's a second season of Halo
And
on Paramount Plus right now.
and by the way, that is terrible, that show.
Season 2 is better. I've watched 2
It's
episodes and it's
boring.
significantly better.
I tried watching 3 and it's so boring. There's nothing.
Did you watch the first season? Because that's
Yes.
why. First season is terrible in respect. There's out of the 6-7 episodes of first season, there's like 2 good ones.
Well,
Out of season 2, it significantly feels
nothing-
like the game in the first one.
Well, nothing that happens in the show seems to be the plot of the game, and I don't care about any of these new characters. The acting was real bad in season 1. It's a lot better in season 2.
Yeah.
The special effects is bad. Why did the video game look better?
Yeah.
Like the video game and like the Machinima series has better CGI.
Yeah, I will say this about it. Like props pretty good, but some of the special effects a little bit rough. In season 2, you're fighting elites in the first like 10 minutes, and that's I think was a big reason why it looked significantly better. But considering last season barely had any kind of covenants, now my guess is because this season's pretty much the fall of Reach. So
they've turned it into a very generic, boring, slow-moving show. Like
yeah,
there's nothing about this that says Halo right now. It really like it's like they're trying to capture a casual audience that doesn't know anything about Halo, and the people that watch this are gonna go, I don't ever want to play that game. That's boring.
yeah, like that's why like season 2 feels like a pretty big course correction to me, but I've only seen the first episode, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it again with a much closer eye. But as someone who has consumed some of the expanded media in novels and comics, they're trying to bring in some of that audience, but it's going to be an uphill fight. If there's a season 3, it better be happening entirely on Halo with Covenant and Flood. And a lot less and a lot less of this UNSC garbage.
There's nothing in this that makes new fans want to watch. And there's almost nothing in it that makes other like hardcore fans want to watch, other than I gotta support Halo. Like, dude, the elites look worse than in game.
I would disagree with the season 2 ones.
It looks very CG. It doesn't look real. Like, for the hundreds of millions of dollars they supposedly spent producing the first season of the show and part of the second season, they couldn't have made rubber suits for people and then animated on top of it.
But say season 2 looks better than season 1. That'll definitely grant. But I think some of the props don't look as good as they used to. I don't know. It's something I'll have to give a bit of a deep dive for my thoughts when it's done.
I think the biggest sin they've committed is that it does the Judge Dredd thing of, hey, we've got to see the actor's face.
Yes, I would agree. Not having Steve Downes as the voice, I think really did them a disservice. Also, nothing against Pablo Schreier.
Yeah. No, also just evil scientist guy who's in charge now for season 2 is like, we're doing the low budget British sci-fi evil guy thing.
Yeah, that I didn't much care for. I'm thinking, really, we're not going to start with Halsey, but I get it. Maybe we'll see. That's why I'm saying like this is going to end with the fall of Reach and all this other bullshit. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, expect updates in like a month or 2.
I think the pacing and scope of the show is off.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, do you hear anybody talking? Like, this is what we're talking right now is more than anybody has talked about this show at all for season 2.
Yeah.
Well, most people don't even know season 2 is happening.
And that, yeah, actually, I'm really glad you actually kind of mentioned that because I was talking with someone on Facebook in the RPG industry, and they're saying, "Hey, what's going on with that kind of Halo show?" I'm like, "Well, coincidentally enough, now that you've mentioned it, there is a season 2 which premieres on February 8th." And she was like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And it's kind of weird because Paramount gave me access to stuff last year. Like, I saw the first 5 episodes before anybody else, and I liked mostly what I saw. Now, admittedly, I am a bit of a Halo fanboy, but I saw stuff this year. I don't know many people who got access to them at all.
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah,
I don't
which is kind of
like
surprising
it.
because I know this is the year they wanted to build hype.
It didn't get any like Rotten Tomatoes scores until after it came out.
Mm-hmm. So,
which is always a bad sign for a streaming show.
100%. So, I mean, but yeah, I mean, in terms of Xbox needing to right the ship, Starfield didn't do it. Forza didn't do it. Halo Infinite has now been moved to a different development cycle. So now we're not even getting the seasonal cool updates. We're not getting the roadmap of content. We're getting smaller operations, I think, from what I've read, because I follow a couple of prominent Halo accounts online. There's nobody streaming it anymore.
Well, they
There's
also
no Twitch drops.
They laid off all the key people, and they fire all the writing staff?
I think there's been significant cutbacks, which have really affected the quality of content that went to Halo. So
I don't believe that anybody that worked on the single player campaign is even there anymore.
I don't think so either. Don't quote us on that. But.
Yeah, don't quote me on like as far as I like what I mean by that is I don't mean like not on the team. I did like not in the company.
Yeah.
So because it was such a substantial cut that they made across the board. So that segues into just briefly, I'll summarize what was at that 6 minutes worth of information that was actually useful at that showcase. No, they're not canceling hardware as we just mentioned and discussed. No, they're not canceling hardware. It's 4 games that they're releasing, at least right now, on multi-platform. They have not said which one this coming week. Maybe even by the time this comes out, they might have been announced. It's been rumored that it's probably going to be shown at the Nintendo Partner Direct, which is upcoming, I think, in this week or next, which is probably going to be Pentiment, which was, I believe that was Obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
That was the... I'm going to say this. I know people like it. That was the weird medieval looking
dragon game.
No, the like, I guess like adventure, not quite RPG. It's one of the point and clicky adventure type games with like strategy elements to it.
All right, sure.
With the graphics made to look like medieval painting art.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass. People that play it that love that style love that game. Everybody else skipped it. And it probably will. It's one of those ones that everybody praises because they're like, yes, they let them do a unique, quirky, independent style game, published by Xbox. It's a great idea for Game Pass, and then nobody played it. And then the other single player one everybody's talking about is probably Hi-Fi Rush.
Okay, that's cool
because they said it's 2 games that are not system movers, but that got good praise, that were new franchises, they said, that will be benefit the gamer community to have their brand put on other things. So that's
what I think would really help. There's a game on Game Pass, and this is an old Xbox One game. I'd love to see this franchise get some love in some capacity. Sunset Overdrive. That's a game that should be ported to other consoles because that game was fucking fun.
I don't think they own it anymore.
I think that was, I'm not sure. I mean, another game franchise that's been languishing, but should really be revived, especially with all the multi-platform stuff, Killer Instinct. Bring that game back. Well, I'm not saying that's going to move hardware.
Well, people are saying that maybe, but they specifically said it was new things. The other one they said was the other 2 titles are live service games. And so people are already knowing it's going to be Grounded. From which is, I think Rare made that. Was it Rare made that one or Obsidian? I think Obsidian.
That's the bug game, right?
That's the bug game where you can make everything. You can get rid of the arachnids if you're afraid of spiders, and then Sea of Thieves.
Okay, all right, that's cool. I mean, considering its only competition is Skull and Bones, wait till next week, folks. We'll talk.
And people are already saying that the reason they're saying it's pretty much for sure Sea of Thieves Sea of Thieves official Twitter or X account, whatever, posted a thing saying something like some flags are green, some flags are red, some flags are even blue, some flags are. Wait, what were we talking about again? And then that's all they posted.
See, that's really awesome because that would really increase the user base for that game. And I know friend of the show, Justin, loves that game.
I played a bit. I'm just not a big Xbox multiplayer fan. You know what I mean?
I only play COD. And even then, the last time I fired up COD multiplayer was about 3 weeks ago because it was a double or triple XP weekend and I was grinding my battle pass, which I missed the last like 6 tiers of that. So whatever, I don't get the skin. Well, whatever, but
if you remember, like we played Deep Rock Galactic with them on Xbox, and then
that was fun.
And we moved over to PlayStation because it's a better ecosystem. And we played a few on there, and this is going to be the same thing, but also it's going to be big for kids because it's fairly kid friendly on Switch, and then also opens up to like the 100 million people that have a PS4/PS5.
Yeah,
right?
And depending on how the licensing goes, because I know Disney licensed Captain Jack to Sea of Thieves. If you open up you could have Princess Peach as, your pirate captain for a skin on Sea of Thieves. For PlayStation, you could probably have, I'm trying to think who you could put on a ship as a skin. Maybe Kratos, maybe? I could see that actually. A Kratos skin for Sea of Thieves would be kind of cool.
Well, I mean, if they're going to other platforms and they are really doing a proper push, then what they're going to do is, if it's PlayStation, you get Kratos, right? Like you said, if you're getting it, and if you're not going to do a special one for PlayStation because you're not playing nice with each other because of your lawsuits, but you are wanting to play nice with Nintendo, and they sort of have been, that's where you get Wind Waker skins.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd be pretty cool.
Like
Zelda and Wind Waker,
or Captain K. Rool's ship, and you have an event.
Donkey Kong.
You have an event where you're taking over K. Rool's ship, and you have to fight him.
See, that'd be really cool, and like you could get like different skins. See, yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, like basically turn Sea of Thieves into like Rocket League meets Fortnite, where you can have all these fun, crazy crossovers. Yeah, you could have a fucking blast with that. That's actually really clever.
Okay,
I mean, I hope it does happen.
Sunset Overdrive is Insomniac. It's technically owned by Sony.
Yeah. See, I would love to see that released.
It's in a weird situation where Microsoft published it, but I believe it's owned by Insomniac. And now that Insomniac is owned by Sony, that will probably come to multiple platforms at some point.
I hope so, because it was such a fun game.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that, but and those two make perfect sense to be the ones coming out. So we'll know. They said that their teams are going to announce it, so those teams will show up probably at the Nintendo event. The other things that they mentioned were, basically try to cover their ass for firing and laying off so many people after their acquisitions. These companies were so valuable that we needed them, and then we just fired a third of their staff or whatever for each studio. They did a little bit of that. They then said that in very clear terms that Game Pass is not coming to other consoles at all. Period. And the rumor was that,
certain degree of sense.
Well, the rumor was, it might go to Nintendo for the next platform. Not if they're using ARM-based stuff. They don't have any games that are ARM-based. Like, you could maybe do xCloud for cloud gaming, but probably not. And for PlayStation, like, if they put Game Pass on PlayStation, there's never a reason to get Xbox hardware ever again. So the fact that they said, hey, we are doubling down on hardware and we're doing really powerful hardware next time, well, then there's no reason to put Game Pass on PlayStation. So there's that. They said that very specifically that, like, flat out, that Indiana Jones and Starfield are not coming to PlayStation at all. So AAA is not coming to PlayStation. It'll be AA stuff, like the stuff like Hi-Fi Rush and maybe its sequels. It'll be live service games, which I honestly think even PlayStation's live service games have no chance unless they go multi-platform. And their multi-platform idea has been PC through Steam, and that seems to be working very well, as you probably saw that, like, Helldivers is like one of their fastest selling games ever. So it's like the number one. I think it beat that Pal World game as far as active players. So, it was a bigger hit than they were expecting. Also really polished because it's got that, even though it's a third-party studio, but it's third-party contracted to them. It's got that Sony polish on it, which Microsoft kind of lacks at release. Now, the last thing they mentioned was, as of the beginning of March, they now have all the contracty stuff, cleared and all that. So you're going to start seeing Activision Blizzard games popping up on Game Pass proper. The first one being, I think it's the first week of March, we're getting Diablo 4.
Yeah, I saw that, which is pretty exciting because I reviewed that late last year. It was recommended, I think, in our holiday gift guide. It's fairly fun. I mean, admittedly, I'm a Baldur's Gate guy now, but I still had fun with that. It is a different style of play, but you'll still have fun with it.
Just ignore the gotcha stuff. Don't get suckered into purchase things.
Yeah, exactly. You do not have to buy anything in that game unless you are really hard up for a cosmetic. Just dungeon crawl and play with your friends.
Dungeon crawl, have fun, listen to the story, play the story. That's how I'm going to play it because I didn't get a chance to, review or play previously.
Steve, maybe that's something I'll join you on a playthrough, and that's something you and I could do very, very casually.
Because I would like to get because we're not playing zombies this year. We're not doing I would like to get back to playing something with my friends online, and that might be the one because I think Baldur's Gate's a little too slow moving for us to really do properly multiplayer.
Well, yeah, because you know how I play D&D, and I take it super hardcore. That's a game that's not meant for, well, yes and no. Like, unless you're all really invested in the story, I don't see it.
If you're a streamer, part of a streaming collective where you and your friends are going to stream for like 8 hours a day, every day, that's your job, you could really have some good role play stuff with Baldur's Gate that way. But Diablo is closer to our, have fun just talking and
casual,
and goofing around. So we can have fun doing that. That'll be fun. That's clearly being put on to boost their numbers for the end of their fiscal quarter, but also it's coming out on the platform for free or for Game Pass, like the week of Final Fantasy coming out on PlayStation. They know that they need something to get the people that aren't going to be playing Final Fantasy to play their system. Yeah,
and hopefully, like I said, we're not sure whether we're getting a review copy of Final Fantasy. Probably not, but we're going to buy it anyway. I'm going to buy mine for summer vacation because I know I'm not going to have anything to play.
It's going to be difficult for us to do our prototype on it then, if you're waiting that long.
Well, hey, if someone's buying it for me, I will gladly do it. I got bills this month.
Just stop buying Transformers.
I wish.
Never. No, but I'll tell you right now. You want to know how hype that game is for me? I played the demo, which you should play anyway because
that's the plan.
Play the demo regardless because you get free stuff. Items that you get to carry into the game, and it saves your progress. You can continue your save.
Okay. So maybe I'll have to give it a whirl.
Yeah, give it a whirl. Try it out. But also, this is how hardcore Final Fantasy is in my family. I have, just in case, because I won't know. A lot of times we won't know we're getting a review copy until the day of release. Sometimes, I was lucky with Final Fantasy 16. I got it a week or so ahead of time. But I was not expecting to get it a week or so ahead of time, so I actually canceled a pre-order I had on it physically. This time I have a physical pre-order on the basic edition. I'm not spending $109 plus tax or whatever it is, or $120, whatever the stupid thing is, for a digital copy of a soundtrack. No way. You get nothing but you get a little item that'll be useful for the first 10 minutes of the game. No, so I'm getting the basic edition. My brother has already paid for the digital copy because he wants it right away. And we both have accounts on our systems, and he's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. We figured this out because Amazon might not get me the game right away.
Yeah.
Because, it's coming out on a Friday. I might not get the game till Saturday or Sunday. And it's like, no, that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Even though, if I got it on those days, I'd probably beat it faster than most people. Actually, I think it's coming out on a Thursday.
What? Maybe I can figure this out.
No, believe me. Think about this. Here's our plan. We've got a Google Calendar set. So he's like, all right, load my profile on your system because we made my system his primary, meaning that anything he purchases, I can play on my account, and he can play on his account as long as he logs in. So for this game, what that means is because he works, regular business hours, he has to be up at 8 in the morning to work and all this. He's taking Thursday and Friday off of work for vacation to play Final Fantasy. And he talked about this with his wife, and he's like, I will do housework, I will do this. These are my days. And she's like, yes, I understand. And then she laughed at him very hard. And she said, he goes, don't laugh at me. And she saw that she goes, you have a calendar set up with scheduling times that you're playing and Alex can play? Yes. So here's how it's working. I will get to, because I'm not sure that my game will arrive right on the day of release physically, I'm getting to preload the game digitally from his account onto my console. I'm going to play, because he has to work, or he normally would have to work, but he sleeps like a regular schedule. From 1 a.m. on the 29th when it comes out till 9 a.m. I get to play. Then I have to log out because it might kick him out, so he can log into his console at his house and play. And then when he goes to bed, whatever time it is at night, I get to play again till the next morning at 9 a.m. And then by then, my physical copy will have arrived, where I can then pop the disc in so that we can both be playing at the same time on different versions the digital and physical. And I won't have to reinstall the game because I already have the 150 gigs installed.
So if you get a review copy, that's coming to me, yes?
If I get unless it's locked to my account, which is what's happened before.
Yeah, I guess we will have to wait and see.
With usually you can just install and get it going, right? But there are a few cases, and it's only been a few times, and I won't state which ones, but some very large games have done it where the outlet or the company that's giving you the review code wants to know which PlayStation account you're using it on, and they will log in and look to see that you've got it.
Oh wow! So yeah, we will figure that out.
That is, and I know why that is. It's to stop people from trying to sell games on the black market or something.
Yeah, reselling keys, the gray market,
reselling keys, or maybe they'll like see that you dumped the game if they find out you're a hacker or something that's going to like rip the game and put it online. That's how they catch people, is doing stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course, but it's like, yeah, those are the times where you're like, yeah, I can't share the code with anybody else, even within my own team. And those are the ones where they're like, could you please print this page, sign this form, and fax it to us? And I'm like, oh, that's going to be one where I'm locked down.
Yeah. So
yes,
we will wait and see.
So that is how big Final Fantasy is in the household, multiple Richie households. We have a calendar and work schedule set to know who can play it, because we might not be able to play it fast enough.
See, I really want to play this game, but I'm also looking at my finances and my time right now. And I was thinking about this as my summer game to relax on. But if we got a prototype on it, maybe I'll figure something out. We'll talk.
I pre-ordered this game in like September. And then I was slowly putting like $10 a month on gift cards on it on Amazon. And then I used like Christmas money and birthday money to pay it off, because that's the other thing too. You're right. It's no longer the way it used to be. These aren't $59, $79. It's $89. It comes to $109 nowadays in Canada to get a game.
Yeah. And that for me, that's a lot of scratch. And obviously, we are what we are here. And I've got a couple things coming out.
Oh, I also remember, I don't buy any collectibles for myself. My collection is not really existing outside of very specific TV shows, right? So
yeah, whereas with me, I do Transformers, but I also do stuff like I'm actually getting a really cool hockey jersey that week, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Wait till you see it.
Yeah, like my hobbies and excursions outside of having some stuff for my movie collection, games for me, it's all about the experience now. I don't really need to collect. I have the consoles, I have the hardware, but my stuff is I have the monthly movie pass for Cineplex and for Landmark, so I get one free, one ticket for each plus the discounts, and I go to the movies, 2 or 3 times a month. That's it. I'm a very simple boy.
Yeah, whereas I am out all day, every day. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News Network here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We're going to take another break. We're going to listen to another one of Alex's reviews for a port of a game that should have some significant technical upgrades. So we'll be back right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Alex here, and our friends over at NISAmerica sent review copies of Trails of Cold Steel 3 and Trails of Cold Steel 4. And no, it's not deja vu you're experiencing. These are new versions for the PlayStation 5. We have reviewed them as they came out in the past for the PlayStation 4. So these are not going to be in-depth reviews beyond what has changed and how do they play. These are quickie reviews of both. I was able to load them up, give my impressions at least of the first 10% or so of the games each, because as you know, we've covered them extensively in the past. I'll let you know here right off the bat that you cannot import your save files from the PS4 versions. Other games and series and companies sometimes allow that. That is not an option here, so you will be having to play them fresh from the start. But interestingly enough, this is kind of weird. So, Trails of Cold Steel 3, I had to remember in the back of my head, were you able to import your save file or save data from previous game entries? And I remember that that was not the case because there was a difference in localization teams and companies that put them out in the past. So, I believe it was handled by Xseed before, and then the franchise is now completely held by NISAmerica. Both great releases, just didn't allow for importation that way. So in starting up Trails of Cold Steel 3, it does give you the option to get a recap, so you can sort of start in not having played 1 and 2, which are still stuck on last gen. But obviously you really benefit from playing those two games because the storyline is a complete thoroughfare all the way through. But anyway, once you've started up the game, maybe watch the recap, you're thrown in, and the first thing you'll notice is the graphics are very sharp. Anti-aliasing has been applied to everything at like a very high depth. It's clearly 4K 60 the whole way through. No frame rate issues. The games ran pretty well on PS4 in the past, or even playing PS4 compatibility mode on PS5. But textures are definitely increased, especially in the backgrounds, to a higher resolution. Everything resolves to a cleaner picture. The character models look a little cleaner and better. Not like a dramatic increase to like a different engine or anything. Just like, it's almost like what if you were playing it on a PC and just max the settings to absolute maximum. That's pretty much what you're looking at here. Same goes for Trails of Cold Steel 4. The difference here is this does let you import save data. You can't load your actual save files from the PS4 version. So you can't just like play on the PS4 with your old saves from the previous versions of the game and then load that save file and convert it like a lot of other games. But it does check for PS4 save data from Trails of Cold Steel 1, 2, 3, and I think it's 1, 2, and 3. Maybe one of the side stories. I can't remember. I have save data from all of them on my system. But it will give you the bonuses that you get for doing complete data, or from Trails of Cold Steel 3 on PS4 save data or PS5. It will detect whether or not you have save data from that. Which would you like to import a PS3 save file or a PS4 save file or a PS5 save file, and it can then use that to unlock bonus items within the game, similar to how it did on the previous gen. So it does at least feature that, which is good, because then you get all those little goodies, so you can start up with a heck of a lot more money and a bunch more items and raw materials that you can use to develop more magical orbs and so on and so forth. Same deal, graphically, a big leap forward when it comes to resolving the visuals comparatively to the PS4 version. This is probably the best it's going to look unless they completely changed engines. It loads a lot faster. The save data just seems to load faster too. Doesn't appear to be any differences when it comes to voice acting. This is mostly just a visual upgrade, some tweaks to the data so that it loads faster, removal of some redundant files so it's a little bit better, more efficient running from an SSD. Everything you sort of look to expect from PS5 upgrades from last gen. Very good. If you haven't played these games in the past, I highly recommend it. I do still recommend, if you can pick them up digitally, physically, wherever you can find them, if you can find the first two games, it really does enhance it, because it is a complete story of 1 through 4. If not, there is a good recap in the third game to get you going, and then you can go from the third into the fourth game. If you were on the fence because you didn't want to play something from last gen, or you're looking for an enhanced upgrade, these aren't remakes. These aren't completely redone. These are remasters using the previous engine with the highest graphical and audio fidelity options available today. And they are some of the best RPGs on the platform, with a amazing overarching story that's still going on. And we're going to be looking forward to covering more of them soon. I believe the next major release in the franchise of this whole saga comes out sometime in the midsummer. So until then, you can catch up with Trails of Cold Steel 3, 4, and then maybe look at some of the other games in the franchise that are available from NISAmerica.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
And welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, the producer. It is time to talk about the weird stuff that has happened around the planet this past week. We're going to start with the story that I found on Twitter this week from TheVerge.com. Tommy Tallarico's never actually featured on MTV Cribs.
Tommy Tallywhacker Ho.
For $3 million, you can own the infamous video game composer's house, Guinness World Records not included. Remember Tommy Tallarico, the famous video game composer who claims he created the Roblox infamous oof sound effect, then got into a legal dispute with the game's developers, asking for an unspecified amount of money for continued use of the sound effect. Eventually, the matter was settled, and ultimately Roblox removed the sound from the game entirely. You know, Tommy Tallarico, the guy who claimed he was the first American to work on Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, despite the fact his first Sonic credit was Sonic and the Black Knight in 2009, a full 17 years after Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was developed and released in America. He's also the guy who boasted several Guinness World Records, including one for being the person who has, quote, worked on the most video games in their lifetime. His mom's very proud. With over 300 credits. Problem was that only about 100 of those credits were actually verifiable, and Guinness reworded the record to read most prolific video game music composer before nixing the record altogether. That Tommy Tallarico,
who by the way, with Guinness Records, it was the division where you could make up your own categories. And you just pay a fee, and they don't check.
And then there's more about Tommy Tallarico. There was who also tried to relaunch the new Intellivision console, taking in millions of dollars in crowdfunding while seemingly misrepresenting the people working on the project to potential investors. Tallarico stepped down from Intellivision in 2022 amid product delays and financial struggles that have apparently not deterred the company's plans to release the console. Remember him and how his claims were all pretty much bullshit? That's the guy. Well, you can buy his house for $3 million. With that, he claimed it was on MTV Cribs. And there was actually a video I watched earlier this winter by H. Bomber Guy, the guy who did that huge 4-hour documentary on plagiarism.
And if you remember, it wasn't MTV Cribs.
Yeah. He just wanted it to look like it because he's like H. Bomber Guy in his videos. Like, that's not the font. That's not the graphics package.
No, it was for a different program, and then he lied and said it was Cribs.
Yeah, because it sounded cooler. Yeah, and it was just ridiculous. I think it was featured on some British television show. I'm pretty sure that's where it was.
He might I know it's what is it? It's not just narcissism. It's
borderline personality sort of thing.
No, what is it? Well, there's malignant narcissism. Narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah.
He might be the most prolific, bold-faced liar in the entire industry.
Yeah,
he can't tell the truth ever. Everything has to be self-aggrandizing. Yeah. I'm better than everybody else. Everybody needs to praise me, and anything that could possibly be my fault,
it's someone else's.
Is either not true, or someone is out to get me because they're jealous.
Yeah, if you want a really good deep dive on Tommy Tallarico, friend of the show, Pat, the NES Punk, has covered multiple things about the in television. H. Bomber Guy's video on him is also super in depth. There are tons of YouTube receipts and everything.
That video destroyed him to the point where he's disappeared from social media and nobody's seen him in public.
Yeah, and I know Tallarico had some personal tragedy, which I think his father passed away recently.
Well, the only problem with that is you don't even know if that's true.
I'm willing to believe someone not faking a death thing. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on something like that.
I mean, we could probably, if you find his father's name, you could probably look up an obituary if it's true. And I hope he wouldn't lie about his father's death to cover his ass, but he is somebody who would do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it sucks, especially for someone like us as Canadians. You might be saying, well, what do you mean? So, up in Canada, once upon a time, well before G4 TV, there used to be a show called The Electric Playground, which Victor Lucas, his co-host, has revived on YouTube and uses the Vancouver Film School, whatever. But this was the video game show that was around before G4. It was before, I think it was around the same time as GamePro TV or about that.
It was this predates internet television. This was in the 90s.
Yeah, so it has been around for so long, and Tommy was a featured co-host on there. And I liked Tommy way back when. I thought he was kind of funny. He was kind of zany, although he would give several video games that have gone on the critical acclaim not great scores. I think he hated Metroid Prime 2 Echoes or something.
He always had generally bad takes, except that you knew that they were his honest takes. So that's all that really mattered. Like, as much as we've said he's a liar, he would give honest takes until he was called out on it.
Yeah, so
he would backpedal, but you could always tell when he was telling the truth because it was usually a bad take because he's not the brightest person.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so weird just to see how far someone like that has fallen.
Yeah,
and
to give you an idea, it predates most of those gaming shows, like in the States, either on cable or internet. September of '97 is what the original run started. Here.
Yeah, so that's before X-Play, Attack of the Show, anything on G4. So that's after GamePro TV, but it's in that era where gaming television that catered specifically to people like us was remarkably rare. So
yeah, like you had this, and then you had like in Canada, like this was to gaming what you had like Inner Space or was that the one, or Anti-Gravity Room?
Yeah.
You had like some comic book / genre stuff on either the Space Channel up here right around the same time, or on YTV's Anti-Gravity. Like, there wasn't really anything like this. Like, the closest thing that you would get to gaming as like a dedicated show would have been like if there was some slight coverage on like a Leo Laporte show or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it was never a primary focus, but the Electric Playground really set up a format that a lot of people would kind of follow for years to come in terms of producing gaming content.
Prior to that, the closest would have been like Video and Arcade Top 10, when they like the game show would have like previews and occasionally like quick, fluffy reviews, and that was early 90s here. But that's basically it.
But like the only thing I can think of is GamePro TV Video Power in its second season was a little bit more I wouldn't call it journalisty, but you would have Johnny Arcade saying, hey, this game was developed by Ultra Games, and here's what went into the development, blah, 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 blah.
Like, to give you an idea of people that started on EP in Canada, before
Evangeline Lilly?
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
I forgot.
So the Wasp from the MCU.
And like people that became big in the industry, like Jade Raymond before she was like one of the heads of the Ubisoft studio and did Assassin's Creed, was on there. Jeff, I believe it was like Jeff Keighley's second job in the industry after doing that award show in the 90s when he was a teenager. So like Jeff Keighley, of Doritos Game Awards fame. Trying to think who else. Some of the other people. Yeah, Evangeline Lilly is probably the biggest one. Like, that's like was like on here and then became like a big movie star.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully, like I said, Tommy gets his stuff kind of sorted out. I mean, I don't hate the guy. I don't like what you've become.
He hasn't screwed us directly over because we didn't give him any money.
Yeah, and we were trying to get the Intellivision if we could get a review unit copy.
And I looked into it at the time, and he was willing to do interviews with people like of all different sizes. Like we're talking like way smaller than us, as long as you basically just puckered up and gave a big wet kiss on his bum.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
And I was like, he's like, and I was reading, it's like basically they wanted you to hype it up without
and not ask hard questions,
and not just that, like hype it up and then don't actually see the heart. Like, why we don't hype things unless we've used them. Like,
yeah, exactly.
how many people have we turned down, either like semi-sponsorship spots or review spots where they're like, here, review it, or here, we'll give it to you, and then here's the script we want you to read. No, you can take that and shove it right up your ass. We do not do that.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
This is one of the ones that when we started looking into it and I was interested, and then you started seeing some horror stories and I was like, nope, we're backing away from this trash fire, and then it all imploded within like a few weeks of that.
Oh yeah, like I've seen some interesting communications between several YouTubers who were involved and could have done stuff like this, and I'm just thinking, Jesus Christ.
Well,
but anyway,
you had people that got semi-famous, like they got their first 1,000 or 5,000 subs by being just Amico hardware shills, and then they're the ones defending it. Well, because they're panicking because they realize they're not talented enough to have a channel on their own without this, so they don't know what to do, so they're just panicking. And now they've all sort of fallen apart because then you have all their fan bases turn on them. It got real ugly, and like we're sitting back here eating popcorn going, and I was like, I just wanted to play the hardware and see how bad it was.
Yeah, and
that's all I wanted.
And now it's one of those things, like I say, if you ever want to go down the Intellivision rabbit hole, go check out multiple episodes of the Completely Unnecessary podcast with Pat the NES Punk. There's also the H Bomber Guy video. Tons of information out there if you're available and interested to take a listen.
Methinks he is being financially sued or on the hook for all of the debt, because he's not the CEO anymore, but he was a managing partner of I guess Intellivision. So methinks he has to sell his home because of tax reasons, because of the problems he's got going on there, and he needs that $3 million.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to move on to our next story. This one will make my wife very happy. So this one comes courtesy of NPR.org. For the first time, two students receive college athletic scholarships for cornhole. Cornhole is the game where you toss a bag at a board and then try to drop it in the hole.
When I saw this, I almost deleted it. I'm like, Mike, we're not having weird news about people cornholing each other.
And then you realized it's a game.
I had to read it 3 times before I went, oh, I know what that is, and it's not what I thought it was.
Exactly. So not the Kevin Smith joke from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but so Colorado high schoolers Jackson Remick and Gavin Hammond are headed to South Carolina to play for Winthrop University. So for the first time, 2 students received college athletic scholarships for cornhole, the backyard game. You toss a bag at a board, try to drop it in the hole, Colorado, blah, 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 blah.
It's the game where you have it's skee ball, but with bean bags and no skee ball.
Yeah, and so these guys have already won a national championship for the American Cornhole League, so the ACL. So they're both.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
College scholarship for the Cornholing League. And they have to put an asterisk. Please refrain from calling it that. It's the Cornhole League, not Cornholing League. Okay,
exactly. There is a difference.
Very difference. That award is given out at the AVNs. So.
He said it, folks, not me. But yeah, so these guys are going to South Carolina, where they're going to play in the Division I cornhole for Winthrop University. So again, it's kind of interesting because cornhole is actually a weirdly weekly part of my life. And what I mean by that is whenever I go to the Guelph Royals games, which is the local baseball team here in Guelph, usually during the 4th or 5th inning, they'll have a guy come out on the field. I think the guy who would be coming out on the field this year is probably the voice of the Guelph Storm, but he would pick someone from the beer tent area. You would come out and play cornhole, and normally it would be sponsored by Canadian Tire or the local beer company. You could win a 6-pack or a $30-$40 gift certificate or something else entirely. And that's how I would play cornhole or I would see cornhole being played. Now, my wife grew up in a place known as Bruce County, which is north of where we live here in Guelph. And cornhole is one of those backyard sports you'd see played at baseball games and barbecues and family kind of get-togethers, which is funny because I'm from the adjacent county, Gray County, and where I grew up, I had never heard of this. But then again, it's not like I would hang out with people who would play cornhole. We were like, let's play Mario Brothers and shit like that.
No, I was gonna say, where you grew up, the game was, hey, anybody want to play a game called Who's Got Meth?
Yeah, it's pretty terrible, but
it's unfortunate, but that's sort of known, that area.
Yeah, like it's pretty tragic how things have kind of turned. But hey,
ours was street hockey. We just played street and lawn bowling was weirdly popular here.
See, and that's something I've also kind of noticed here in Guelph. There is a huge lawn bowling scene here, and like croquet and stuff. It's kind of nutty.
Guelph, KW, Cambridge area. It's for whatever reason there's a lawn bowling league, and I grew up. The house I lived in for like 10 years growing up, our backyard didn't have a fence. Like it walked onto a field, and to the right of that was like a tennis court area that was a public part of the public park. But to the left was the private lawn bowling club for Kitchener. That's where they would do it. And so like there was always like these 70, 80-year-old people playing lawn bowling. And I played once or twice. They invited me in just to try it. And I mean, it's exactly what you'd think. It's basically curling, but on the grass.
See, I think you and I, because it's not like cornhole requires any real great skill other than manual dexterity. I think you and I could do pretty well at this, all things considered.
Dude, even, and the same thing goes for croquet. You might be able to do that from your chair.
Yeah, maybe.
Even lawn bowling, cornhole, they're old people and us people kind of games. We could totally do those.
See, so maybe folks at some point this spring, me and Alex will tell you our experience playing cornhole.
We'll join a league with a bunch of old people
and just dominate them.
Everybody's like, oh, everybody plays pickleball. It's like, no. We're all about the cornhole.
Actually,
and lawn bowling.
Pickleball, speaking of that, weird side Guelph story. There is a ridiculously huge presence for pickleball here in Guelph. So much so, we're talking about pickleball accessible courts and other things. I remember doing something about this at city council like last year, or maybe it was the year before last, when I was sitting on a committee and I was like, what's pickleball? And evidently it's huge. So
my dad gets visibly angry when he hears the word pickleball. He says it's the stupidest sounding name, as stupid as something. He's like, he saw what it was and he goes, it's for old people that don't want to admit they can't play sports anymore. And I was like, yes. And he goes, who would want to do that? I'm like, Dad, they're all your age. And he got even more mad.
All right. So our next story comes courtesy of courtesy of APnews.com from the Associated Press. A loophole got a free New York hotel stay for 5 years, and then he claimed to own the building. For 5 years, a New York City man managed to live rent-free in a landmark Manhattan hotel by exploiting an obscure local housing law. But prosecutors this week said Mickey Barretto went too far when he filed paperwork claiming ownership of the entire New Yorker hotel building and tried to charge another tenant rent. On Wednesday, he was arrested and charged with filing false property records, but Barretto, 48, says he was surprised when police showed up at his boyfriend's apartment with guns and bulletproof shields. As far as he's concerned, it should be a civil case, not a criminal one. I said, oh, I thought you were doing something for Valentine's Day to spice up the relationship, until I saw the female officers, Barretto recalls telling his boyfriend. Barretto's main indictment on fraud and criminal contempt charges is just the latest chapter in the years-long legal saga that began when he and his boyfriend paid about $200 to rent one of the more than 1,000 rooms at the towering Art Deco structure built in 1930. Barretto said he just moved to New York from Los Angeles when his boyfriend told him about the loophole that allows occupants of single-room buildings constructed before 1969 to demand a 6-month lease. Barretto claimed that he'd paid for a night in the hotel he counted as a tenant. He asked for a lease, and the hotel promptly kicked him out. So I went to the court the next day. The judge denied. I appealed to the state Supreme Court, and I won the appeal, Barretto said, adding that the crucial point in the case is lawyers for the building's owners didn't show up and allowed him to win by default. The judge ordered the hotel to give Barretto a key, and he lived there until July 2023 without paying any rent because the building's owners never wanted to negotiate a lease with him, but they couldn't kick him out. So Manhattan prosecutors acknowledged that the housing court gave Barretto possession of his room But he didn't stop there. In 2019, he uploaded a fake deed to the city website purporting to transfer ownership of the entire building to himself from the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity, which bought the property in 1976. The church was founded in South Korea by self-proclaimed Messiah, the late Rev Sun Myung Moon. Barreto then tried to charge various entities of the ownership of the building, including demanding rent from one of the hotel's tenants, registering the hotel under his name with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection for water and sewage payments, and demanding the hotel's bank transfer accounts to its own, the prosecutors said in a statement.
So he could have just lived there for the rest of his life if he wasn't stupid.
Yeah, basically, if he shut up, and it kind of gets summed up in this. So, as it alleged, Mickey Barreto repeatedly and fraudulently claimed ownership of one of the city's most iconic landmarks, the New Yorker Hotel, said Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, which is a name you may recognize from some of the Trump trials that are happening right now. Located a block away from Madison Square Garden and Penn Station, the New Yorker has never been among the city's most glamorous hotels, but has long been among its largest. Huge red New Yorker sign makes it oft photographed landmark in the city. Inventor Nikola Tesla lived at the hotel for a decade. NBC broadcasting from the hotel's Terrace room. Boxers included Muhammad Ali stayed there when they had bouts at the Garden. It closed as a hotel in 1972 and was for years used for church purposes before part of the building reopened as a hotel in 1994. The Unification Church sued Barreto in 2019 over the deed claim, including representations on LinkedIn as the building's owner. That case is ongoing, but a judge ruled Barreto can't portray himself as the owner in the meantime. A Unification spokesperson declined to comment about his arrest, citing the ongoing civil case. And then this article is almost done. In that case, Barreto argued the judge who gave him possession of his room indirectly gave him the entire building because it had never been subdivided. Quote, I never intended to commit any fraud. I don't believe I ever committed any fraud, Barreto said, and I never made a penny out of this. Barreto said his legal wrangling is activism aimed at denying profits to the Unification Church. The church is known for conducting mass weddings, has been sued by recruiting methods, and criticized by some over its friendly relationship with North Korea, where Moon was born. He has said he has never hired a lawyer for the civil cases and has always represented himself. On Wednesday, he secured himself a criminal defense attorney. If you had just shut up and not tried to make a bunch of money, you'd still have a room. You'd have a place to live in New York, one of the most expensive places to live in the United States.
Besides Madison Square Garden for the rest of your life.
Yeah, like, dude, all you had to do was shut up. How hard is this? Oh my God. See, that blows my mind because
it doesn't say if they had like room service or anything. I would assume he just
Probably
had
not.
access. It must have been filthy in there.
Or maybe it was just a really small, probably it wouldn't have been one of like the presidential suites. It's probably just one of the standard rooms with like your big room, maybe a desk, a bathroom, and maybe some other small things. But
it's a case of somebody who was already maybe not thinking straight when they did it, and then slowly losing their marbles a little bit by thinking they could get away with more and more and more.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact that he tried to do this over LinkedIn, portray himself as the building's owner, then fraudulently uploading stuff as alleged to the city's official website. New York's not a state where they fuck around with this type of thing. I mean, we're seeing that kind of play out with the kind of Trump stuff right now. Like, they take business and ownership of certain things really fucking seriously. So if you get the right district attorney, they're going to make an example out of you. This guy is going to lose and lose terribly. So I hope you've saved up all that money that you weren't paying for rent and have got someplace else you're kind of looking at. And let me tell you, it ain't going to be that prime real estate anymore.
Even though it's Manhattan and yada, 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 if he had the money to leave, he would have left in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like somebody isn't working. And then they were trying to find, if he's trying to charge rent to those people, like, if you had a source of income in New York, you make good money. Mm-hmm. And if you're not paying rent at all, in 10 years, he could have saved up enough money to buy a house in the Bronx.
Or something,
So the fact that he hasn't means that there was no chance of him ever working. This is somebody who was gaming the system and then took it too far.
Yep. So our last story, Alex could be the only one who could possibly find this story.
You're welcome.
This comes courtesy of GameReactor.eu. An upcoming Korean Netflix drama explores what happens when your daughter is turned into a chicken nugget. Netflix really does seem to greenlight anything and everything that is proposed to its Korean division, but no doubt thanks to the roaring success of many wacky shows that have come from the country to the streamer, the latest might find itself achieving such success as a series is called Daka Gaejong, I think that's how I pronounce it, as her what it's about. It's a father attempting to turn his daughter back into a human being after he was turned into a chicken nugget by a strange machine. The plot synopsis for the show is as follows. Choi Ming-ah, the daughter of a company president, mistakes its new machine as a device that helps her with her fatigue. After she's accidentally turned into a chicken nugget, as her father, Choi Sing-ming, intern Go Baek-jong, has a crush on her, trying to turn her back into a human, they discover unexpected secrets. It is unclear when or even if this will debut kind of globally. The show will make its arrival on Netflix, but Netflix Korea has gone as far as to say that it's planned for one of its Q1 2024 editions before sharing in images of the show, which guy, I guess the father and the or the guy who has the crush on her, they're staring at a pack of chicken nuggets. There's them on a subway and various action shots. And
yes, this is not a comedy. This is not a children's show. This is an adult romance show.
See, I'm weirdly curious because it could be fun. It could be funny. I mean, the setup is ridiculous. I mean, I would love to see how that pitch meeting went.
This is like, didn't they make, wasn't there a show there during the pandemic that was about somebody falling in love with like Subway or something?
No, it seemed, I know John Oliver did a skit about it, and I think it was a series of Subway commercials that aired in South Korea and had really captured the nation's attention. And then John Oliver skewed it on Last Week Tonight.
Wasn't it a romance about like somebody working at Subway?
Something.
And then like they fall in love with somebody, but they cheat on them because they buy them a different sandwich or something.
Yeah, like the John Oliver episode, which you can find up on YouTube about Subway, explains this in so much more weird detail. But it's definitely worth watching because it's like so strange.
You should pair this, like watch this back when it comes out. Hopefully it'll be subtitled. It has to have subtitles. They're gonna do that.
Oh yeah.
Watch it back to back with the what's his name? What's the dude from was it Dancing with the Stars or Saved by the Bell? The mullet guy. Slater.
Yeah. Mario Lopez. Yeah.
Mario Lopez. Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel.
The romance novel.
The Lifetime movie one. The romance movie where it's about dating the Colonel. They should put that back to back with it.
I kind of hope this comes out before like April Fool's Day, because now we typically don't do anything on that weekend because it's hard to sort news from actual bullshit. But Alex, I'm going to propose this live to you on the show right now. If this Korean show comes out before April Fool's Day, if it's subtitled, I think that might be kind of a fun little mini commentary.
Okay. Well, or we watch it, and when we do the show that week, we usually do, which is where we gather like for the news. We always gather what like the best prank websites were and all that. Like what was it when Pornhub became Cornhub? That was one of the better ones. We'll do that, and then one of the reviews can be our review
of the show
of the first couple episodes of the show.
I hope it really does come out. So Netflix Korea, don't let me down. I should contact my friends at Netflix Canada and say, hey, so weird question. That might be kind of funny.
Like this is what gets me is that it's being taken as a serious. Like I know that it's going to be inherently funny, but it's being taken as a serious show.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there'll be some amazing writing in the show, because there was a Netflix show that I was watching, and it involved, I think it was either Japan or Korean students during the zombie apocalypse, and it was live action. It wasn't High School of the Dead, which is what I guess you're probably thinking of.
No, I'm because I was just instead of KY jail, it's just plum sauce.
Oh, that's terrible. But no, like
I'm sorry for everybody. That's a vision you shouldn't have to have in your head.
But yeah, like it was one of those shows. I remember the writing actually being kind of cool, and that was a show where nobody was really safe. Like there were a lot of characters. I'm like, didn't expect you to go.
I still haven't seen Squid Game.
Neither have I, and I've been very curious about that for a number of years.
Like, isn't it just like Battle Royale? Like
I'm not 100% sure. Like, I know it's like, from what I understand, it takes a series of desperate people, and like, hey, if you survive this game show, we'll give you like whatever you want, sort of thing.
It's like the Takashi's whatever, that MX show that we saw. Was it MXT, MXP?
Something like that. Most Extreme Elimination Challenge or something.
Yeah, not Most Extreme Primate. That's a different. That's a movie about a monkey.
Future loose cannon. But yeah, like
that's what we need. What was it? Dunstan. What was that?
Checks in.
Dunstan checks in mixed with Squid Game, and it's just a monkey tearing people apart.
Yes, survive the monkey, get your wish.
The monkey getting five
primates high on meth. Can you survive the maze?
5 teenage boys, 5 middle-aged moms, 5 angry orangutans. Who will survive Ape Island?
Oh my God, we should do that.
It's made me think of that because I was watching 30 Rock and they had MILF Island in that, and then the most crazy thing is they ended up making a MILF Island show now.
Yeah, and like actually, there is one show me and Blair love. We love watching a show called Naked and Afraid, which you take a bunch of survivalists and they survive in the woods for like 2-3 weeks, whatever. But there was a version of the show that came out on Discovery Plus. So thank you, David Zasloff. And it's called Naked and Afraid and in Love or something like that. And I'm thinking, this is dumb because if you're having a hard enough time surviving, I'm pretty much thinking romance and nookie should be pretty low on the priority list besides trying to secure food and shelter. And I think we watched about 20 minutes of this. We're like, this is stupid.
Well, because, they're blurred anyway, so how can you tell when they got, like, bones?
Well, yikes, I'm not touching that. But,
what the blur gets bigger? No.
But no, like, I seem to recall, like,
idea.
It's just weird. It's just weird that all these, like, romance shows, and, again, there is a demographic for it because we have The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. I know recently this year we had The Golden Bachelor where they had someone who was in their seniors trying to find someone, which is, fine and whatever.
And wasn't there like a Poor Bachelor or something?
I think it was called like Working Joe or something.
Was that Joe Millionaire where one of the times he wasn't a millionaire?
Or something like that, yeah.
Like why can't there just be like poor? This is a dating show where it's a bunch of lucky ladies get to go maybe date a poor, sloppy, fat white dude, and it'd be like, I'd watch that because I'd be like, hey, that looks like my neighbor, or that looks like me. Let's watch them all reject him.
Yeah, like it's so weird how we have all these bizarre shows that get greenlit for whatever reason.
These shows generally aren't for us. There is a market for them. Is it lazy TV? Yeah. Is it good television? Not usually. Would it be better if we had monkeys in them ripping off people's arms? Yeah.
Probably. Monkey Island, guys. The idea is right there. You're welcome.
It's just like 17 teenagers, 3 monkeys, one of which hasn't had any sleep, and we slapped the shit out of him when he had. We put a burlap sack on his head and slapped the ever living shit out of him, and then took the hood off and threw him at the kids. We saw what happened. That's basically what it sounds like these Korean dramas are like.
See, and I remember watching, there was one Korean drama I actually watched when I was in the hospital, and I really got involved in it.
Was it the Korean one or the Indian one we watched?
I think it was both of them because they were on like one after another. We're like, well, I kind of want to know what happens next.
We watched, I forget the name of it. We watched the Indian soap opera together. We watched, when I visited you a few times, we watched a few episodes, and that's the one where it was like full on drama. Like there was like explosions and
a motorcycle chase,
and motorcycle chase. And then it would cut to a full blown Bollywood dance for no reason. And then it would cut to like normal. It was like, what the hell? And it was like basically All My Children mixed with a Bollywood movie.
Yeah, it was really kind of cool. I kind of wish I could remember what it was called, but I know there was like the South Korean drama that I was watching in the hospital too. I was only following it because of the like subtitles, but I was like, this is kind of neat actually.
You know what? You know what's on YouTube? You can just watch instead and just pretend that it's 2003. Train 48's on there now.
Oh God. So yeah, folks, to give you a very brief history of this show, Train 48 was a show that was aired on Global and I think throughout Canada. And it was just them. They turned on a camera. They, hey, here's your basic characters, make it up.
Yeah. Like here's like 10 different cast members or 12, whatever it is. They're on a train that's a commuter train for people going to work and school in the morning. And the first half of the episode is them going to wherever they're going for the day. The second half is them coming back, all having their random conversations about their lives. They're all given like a basic premise of what their character arc is and what they're doing. And then there'd be whatever news was on the news that day. They would be talking about whatever was in the paper.
Yeah. So it was kind of an interesting idea. And I think that show could actually work as a YouTube show. I mean, because the turnaround could be so amazingly quick. I mean, it would never survive on broadcasting or streaming, but if you popped it up on YouTube,
it was 10 years too early when it came out. And it was the cheap, extremely cheap way of doing a soap opera that like most Canadian soap operas lasted like 6 months to a year. And it lasted, I think, was it 2 or 3 years or more? Something like that.
Like it was one of those long shows that survived well past.
Real low budget. And like, and when we say like unscripted, like they're given the outline of what here's an outline of what you should, here's the event that happened today. Here is what happened yesterday with your character. And you're going to be sitting next to so-and-so on the train today who has this personality. So then just react how you think you'd react.
Yeah. And again, kind of brilliant, but about 10 years too early. So
there are some famous people that ended up from it. Probably the most famous is what's his name from he's now on Mandalorian, and he was the
guy from Kim's Convenience.
Yeah, I forget. I'm sorry, I'm butchering. I don't know his name, but he's the
Korean gentleman.
Yeah, the Korean gentleman. I forget his character name in the Mandalorian, but he's the
he's not Trapper Wolf because that's Dave Filoni's character, but yeah, he's the other X-wing pilot.
He's the X-wing pilot that it recurs multiple times, and originally was gonna he was trying to get Cara Dune whatever to join, but now that she's like erased from existence, he's the one that goes and helps the Mandalorian and the Mandalorians.
So he's the new Republic friendly face, so to speak.
Yeah, he's the one that looks to be like the connective tissue if they end up making a new Republic show.
Mm-hmm. Which would be fine. I think it'd be great to follow. Since we're never getting that Patty Jenkins Rogue One movie, I could handle an X-Wing show. In fact, I was saying this to Blair and Liam, who's my next door neighbor for you folks that don't necessarily remember. If I could get an X-Wing show shot like Masters of Air, I am happy. Now, that being said, there is a short on YouTube called Wingman, and it just came out within the last month to 2 months, and it's a 50-minute X-Wing movie, and it's pretty friggin' phenomenal. You guys should check this out, and it's one of the first Star Wars fan films I've ever watched that wasn't focused on Jedi or stormtroopers. This is just something where it was just, here's a slice of life in a Republic pilot's thing. It's really fantastic. It's 50 minutes. Totally worth it.
Let's just greenlight a show where it's about Uncle Owen being a water farmer.
See, you could make a Tatooine show interesting, but the problem is, why is all this stuff randomly happening in the Outer Rim? But I digress. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of The Weird News only on This Week in Geek, where we've talked about chicken nuggets, taking advantage of people that you're renting from, and Tommy Tallarico. So we're gonna take a listen to one of Alex's reviews for something he had a chance to watch from our friends over at Mill Creek. We'll be back right after this at the close of the show and discuss what is coming up on the show in the next couple of weeks. We'll be back, guys, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Time for something a little different here, and our friends at Mill Creek sent over a series of Steelbooks that are Walmart exclusive. And usually we don't cover a lot of things that are a single store exclusive, but as Best Buy and other companies are talking about removing home videos from their storefronts, I just found it interesting that, Walmart is obviously still going all in on that. And, outside of Amazon being a big store, online storefront, I think that, Target's still there in the States, but Walmart's going to be pretty much the main go-to. So I guess calling something a Walmart exclusive is not really a big surprise anymore. But just a quick overview. These are movies that have all been released previously on Blu-ray, but are getting, in some cases, a slightly better transfer with some of the features brought over, but mostly new cover art and Steelbook editions to be put back in print. And they are Anaconda, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Hollow Man, let me see here. Anaconda, I Know What You Did This Summer, Hollow Man, and I think there's more that are coming, but these are the ones that I've had a chance to look at so far. Oh yes, and Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. That's right. I say as I was looking, and it's in my player right at this moment. But yes, they are in the standard Steelbook case with a brand new cover art. All the same features that have been released previously. They are, nothing beyond that except the fact that these were out of print for quite some time in most cases. The art is really good on each one. They are like updated versions of some of the original DVD art from them, or even in some cases, even the VHS art from the late 90s. And they really pop and they're vibrant. And I'm happy to say this, that the most important thing to me is that these Steelbooks are of the better Steelbook quality. I know there's a few different manufacturers of them, and these are the ones where the metal doesn't bend as easy. You're not going to get dents or crappy cases out of it. You don't really have to worry about them being shipped improperly or anything. They are pretty solid. And out of all these, the one I'm most happy with, from what I've seen, is like Anaconda and Know What You Did Last Summer, Dewey Cox, and so forth. They look good, but the one that you should be probably most happy about, at least if you're one of our listeners, is that Hollow Man is getting a proper re-release, because it hasn't had a Blu-ray release in quite some time. And when it did come out initially, it was one of those kind of poor transfers that was out there previously. This appears, at least to my eye, to be a brand new transfer. It doesn't mention it, but it doesn't look as grainy or as muddy as the previous releases have in the past. So I'm happy to see that it looks to be using a new transfer, if not for Blu-ray format itself, at least it's a new transfer that was used for some other digital release at some point. All of these have Master Audio 5.1 surround, and they have some digital features that were produced for previous Blu-ray and DVD releases. So they have a price point of an MSRP of $25. If you go into a Walmart itself, you're probably going to see it cheaper, because they always have deals, or you might see it in a bin or something, or on the shelf. But they all have good art. They're reasonably priced considering what Steelbooks cost for collector's editions, and the fact that they seem to have new transfers in some cases here make it completely worth it, especially if you're a fan of genre films. I Know What You Did Last Summer has been released a few times. Anaconda, same deal. Dewey Cox, I don't think it's had as many releases, but Hollow Man is the one that, if I had to pick one specifically, that's what I would go with, because it is the director's cut as well.
And that's the kind of show it has been here on This Week in Geek. Big thanks to Alex for putting all those reviews together from our friends such as Mill Creek and others. It is always appreciated when we get a chance to take a look at different types of media here on the show. So coming up in the next little bit, I know we are recording a bunch of stuff that you'll hear later on, either this month or next month. We're trying to do a bunch of evergreen shows now that our schedule's a little bit more cleared up. I know me and David from Do You Even Movie, we're going to be taking a look at the Critters franchise. That'll be out sometime soon-ish. We did record a really long show on the Creep Show franchise, which was a lot of fun. I forgot how much I enjoy, 2 out of 3 movies, plus the TV show on Shudder. We've also got some other ideas. We've been bouncing around between me and Dave, me and Alex, me and Aaron. Me and JT are planning on doing something for X-Men Animated before that comes out. Me and Ken still have those 2 anime classics episodes, but because that's kind of evergreen, it's just waiting for our schedules to line up. Oh, this is kind of a fun announcement. So last year, I was at GriffCon, which was the role-playing and tabletop convention held at the University of Guelph. I will be there again this year in the first week of April, I believe, and I will be doing another series of Transformers games from our friends over at Renegade Game Studios. And I'm going to be running a Decepticon game this year, which I kind of based upon the Suicide Squad. So that'll be kind of fun. I've already had a couple people sign up. So if you want to find out more about that, you can go to, I think it's called griffcon.org, or just type in GriffCon and Guelph and you'll find it. So if you want to be game mastered by me, still lots of open slots available right now.
So what you're saying is, if it's Suicide Squad style, is it Skyfire dies in the first 3 seconds?
Probably. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to turn this into a wacky cartoon bloodbath at times. It's going to be great.
Like at the end, it's just like people who make it out. It's like sound like of like the hero or heroes. You have like Soundwave, and
Thundercracker,
like,
and then Skywarp,
and it's like whatever that was it Ratbat?
Yeah, Ratbat,
and that's it. Like Ravage. All the other ones are gone. It's just Ratbat, Soundwave, and then like I don't know. Let me think. Somebody else.
Blitzwing or something.
Blitzwing just crawls out of the ocean, and it's just like those 3. That's it. That's all.
Oh
left.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a team of 20 of like the most well-known Decepticons, and only one well-known one makes it.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be brutal. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a friggin' blast. I thought about running a one-shot D&D on Saturday morning.
Even better, it's like Decepticons, and like one of the only people that make it isn't even a Decepticon. It's like Psykill from GoBots.
Actually, I could make that work. That's not a half bad idea, actually. But yeah, like that's going to be fun. So that's going to be coming up in April. And there's just a bunch of other interesting stuff that's going to be going on in and around the city of Guelph for us. So again, you actually might see me out at events here in the city with my work with CFRU. I may be doing remotes for them. I may be doing some interviews, as you guys hear some of those here on the show. I'm hoping going to be doing a couple more interviews with some people in the RPG industry later on this year, or maybe just people that I find interesting, because you know what? I miss talking to people. And I think that the pandemic has kind of changed things. So it's a little easier to get a hold of people now. So,
this is going to be the first spring and summer, at least locally, where everything is as back to normal as it could be in this wacky world that we have.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking forward to maybe going down to the Round Table, which is the local gaming thing here in Guelph. And we have people like Ed Greenwood shows up, who you may know as a major name in the Dungeons and Dragons franchise, basically the person behind Forgotten Realms.
Fun fact, their sister location in Waterloo is where my brother had his bachelor party dinner.
Yeah, so like it's
a cool place. It's a board game cafe / bar, like, you know, bar barbecue place. And I don't know if the Guelph one is the same, but the Waterloo one has fantasy swords all over the walls.
Yeah, oh yeah, ours has some pretty impressive stuff on the walls.
Like everything from like Excalibur from the Excalibur movie in '81. To like He-Man sword, to the Highlander swords. Pick your poison. All the Highlander swords of all the different McLeods and Ramirez and everything. And then like next to it will be like a lightsaber.
Yeah, like it's pretty cool. And if you want to check out more about the Round Table, you can actually find them on YouTube. They're actually hosting a new show that's coming up, I think this month or next month. It's I think their channel's called 6 Sides of Gaming. And you'll recognize a lot of big names from the RPG industry on there. I know he runs a studio called Lynn Vader. They did the Evil Dead board game a couple of years ago, and there's like a new edition coming out soon. So anyway, there'll probably be some more interviews and stuff going on here as I get involved with like CFRU and TWIG. It's going to be good.
Yeah, on the schedule here, like we were just talking off air that We'll probably have a review show come up. It also I'm going to depend on some of the reviews that we have done, but obviously we'll have our regular programming. But coming up, already scheduled for this week after this episode comes out, is we have a botched roll on your learning to love D&D again.
Yeah, which is rather topical.
As well as an Earth versus Soup episode 189, The Devil's Hand from 1961.
Ooh, so yeah, that'll be fun, like I said. And then me and Alex and Aaron have recorded some stuff that you're going to hear later on. Me and Dave are constantly working in the background. Me and JT are going to, again, bring back Sunday Funnies to talk about what we love about comics and stuff like that. Me and Ken will always do more anime and stuff like that.
I've had some episode ideas percolating for future episodes of the prototype, because right now we've only been coming back mostly for extended reviews that wouldn't fit as a regular show, or sometimes if there's been like a big state of play sort of thing, or the Game Awards. But to get some random episodes that we could put out in between, I was thinking, you know how we had, like, I've got a bunch of those mini consoles, like the SNES Mini and all that. Like, I was thinking maybe we go back to like the Atari and go forward with each generation, and we pick, a console, and it could be a faster episode if we wanted to. It could be a longer, depending on our conversation. And, we each pick, let's say, we have you, me, and maybe Ken on, because I know he'll be probably down. We each pick 10 games. It doesn't have to be necessarily the games that you think that would be perfect for it, but maybe, either make financial sense or your favorites if you know them, or even just based on notoriety if you haven't played them. We each pick 10 games, that's 30 games, and we whittle them down and figure out what 20 games would be what that company would put out on like an Atari Mini, a new, like an NES Mini 3 or 2.0, or a Genesis Mini. Or we do something strange, like if we were having a PlayStation Mini, what games would we have put on that were better than what Sony actually put on that console, or what would be on a GameCube Mini? That sort of stuff. We could do some fun, interesting.
That's actually kind of fun, yeah.
Because I'm going to have obviously some RPGs and some weird stuff on there, and then we can sort of just discuss things like, hey, what would make financial sense? What wouldn't work because it's licensed. We may have loved it, but we ain't seeing that game again because there's too much licensing in it. Like, we're not going to see
Tony Hawk, for example,
like a Dreamcast Mini right now. We're not seeing Crazy Taxi with the licensed music again.
Yeah, it just will not happen.
Not that, like we're just not going to hear the Offspring in our head every time we launch the game, because unless they're willing to pay for it, it's not happening again. So that kind of stuff. So stuff like that we could maybe put out throughout the year. That would be kind of fun, because it's different than just our top 10s. It's more like what would make financial sense to release again, because it's been a while. Like the last major mini console release that wasn't like a British computer, like the Atari 400 or the Amiga 400s came out or whatever, was, what was it, the Genesis Mini 2 a couple of years back?
Yep.
And that's one of the few ones I didn't purchase, because I was like, I already got a Genesis Mini. But I was like, wait a minute, they're the only ones that have done that, where they released a second official one with, different style console with different games. And I went, wait a minute, maybe Nintendo would do an NES Mini 2. So that's something we can talk about. It's percolating the ideas. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, lots of good stuff coming up on the show. And again, thank you for joining us for the last 17 or so years here on the show. One of Canada's longest running podcasts, we can say. So again, thank you so much, guys.
You know what? I think when we hit the 10th anniversary of me being on the show, we got to revisit Andromeda for a prototype.
I think that might be kind of fun, actually, just to see where that franchise has gone.
Maybe I won't get in trouble for saying things this time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right there, guys. So we got a lot of, like I said, fun stuff coming up on the site this week. Always keep it locked to ThisWeekInGeek.net. Always check your podcatchers across iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you catch your stuff. You can also watch us on YouTube if you want to hear an audio version of this that you can just kind of carry around in your pocket, or if you just want to put it on your TV. However you wish to enjoy the content, we definitely appreciate it. And again, if you want to get in contact with the show, feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can always check our social medias, and to get a hold of us individually, you can email Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net or Alex at ThisWeekInGeek.net. We are always willing and willing and able to say, hey, hello, what's up, and see what is kind of going on. So until next time, for ThisWeekInGeek.net, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next week, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.